Just a quick warning, there will be some spoilers for Genshin and HSR's current story quests, so just as a warning if you're not up to date. Now that I've made my video of the war between Wuthering Waves and Genshin, I'd like to go over a topic that I'm sure will resonate with many of my fellow gacha players. I'd like to talk about Genshin Impact and the negative effects that this game is spreading throughout the gaming sphere as a whole. Genshin Impact brought the gacha genre to the mainstream audience, and propagated the idea that it's perfectly fine to drop thousands of dollars on fictional characters, subsequently bringing financial ruin to all those who can't control their spending habits. It preyed upon people who were shut in during the pandemic, and it fostered a Stockholm-like attachment to the game that has driven what would be normal, rational people to the point of utter madness, refusing to listen to common sense about why Genshin Impact is not something you should enjoy or encourage others to engage with. So you might be saying, well, this sounds a little far-fetched, right? How could one game cause this much grief and agony in the lives of so many people and perpetuate distress to content creators and fellow gamers, all while siphoning money from the innocent? Well, it all started about half a decade ago now, when a little company called miHoYo decided to rip off a game series that is well known by many. I'm speaking, of course, of The Legend of Zelda. You see, there are many examples throughout gaming history where games take inspiration from each other, but Genshin's case is particularly egregious, and I'll explain why in a minute here. But, to give a few examples, Defense of the Ancients, and eventually League of Legends, spawning from the Warcraft 3 mod, was a monumental success, since it created the MOBA genre where many people engage in healthy social interactions online and learn how to achieve sportsmanlike conduct with fellow esports enthusiasts. League of Legends, in particular, is fully free to play and makes most of its money through non-pay-to-win cosmetics and affordably priced skins, as well as PUBG and Fortnite, spawning from H1Z1 to catapult the Battle Royale genre into popularity for everyone to enjoy, and for parents to have a healthy outlet for their children to engage with, all while barely costing them anything. But the worst offender in gaming history is when Genshin Impact outright stole the idea of an open world game from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and created the fraudulent game today known as Genshin Impact. They blatantly copied another game and shamefully attempted to pass it off as an original concept. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild created the open world game genre, with puzzles to solve and chests to discover out in the open world map. Never before had we seen such a groundbreaking concept in gaming, and miHoYo set out to usurp Zelda's throne. There was even outrage in China about this, and I applaud that one fan that shattered his PlayStation 4 on the ground in a bold and daring protest against miHoYo and the devs who would dare to taint the open world genre with their appalling outright copy of the Legend of Zelda franchise. But let's fast forward a little bit, because many of you are familiar with Genshin's origin story. So let's discuss Genshin today, and what it's doing to cause more frustration and grief to many current players and to people who don't even play the game anymore. As everyone knows, Genshin today literally has no content. Each new patch brings absolutely nothing new to the game. All they add is new story, new events, new characters, new zones to explore, and they've recently been adding a lot of new quality of life features, as well as future plans to add some sort of user-generated content to the game. And they're finally adding a new form of endgame battle style content to the game called Imaginarium Theater. But all of this is absolutely nothing. Genshin has no content whatsoever. When you log into the game, you literally stare at the screen, wondering what there is to even do. And then you log out because you realize you'd be better off doing your other gacha dailies instead. You could just go farm echoes and Wuthering Waves for 6 hours or so, because that game gives you massive amounts of XP and tuners to level up your echoes. So you literally have infinite content to enjoy non-stop. And speaking of Wuthering Waves, the recent topic of Wuthering Waves versus Genshin has been so disingenuous from the Genshin player's side. Genshin was littered with bugs on launch. It was almost impossible to play Genshin Impact on day one. Logging in was incredibly stressful, and not to mention just how poorly optimized the game is and still is to this day. Frame drops are constant, you experience bugs daily in the game, and all the voice work is from underpaid actors who phone it in, unlike Wuthering Waves' superb English VA.
You're not going anywhere. You will not escape.
The early days of Genshin were loaded with misinformation campaigns, especially coming from the content creator Matt Jestick. He spread so much misinfo about Genshin and falsely led people to believe the game was better than it actually is. So much of his misinformation still permeates current Genshin discussions. Like seriously, do chests respawn, guys? I don't even know still to this day. And in recent days, let's talk about the Kave bug. One of the worst bugs to ever happen in a live service game. The Kave bug allowed malintentioned users to delete around 100,000 Genshin Impact accounts, and Hoyoverse totally tried to cover this up by filing lawsuits and all sorts of censorship. But this was a bug that was a huge oversight from the Genshin dev team. Despite the rumors, this was not a hack program. It was a bug. I have a good source of info on this, and I might release that source later on. We'll see. And the story. Well, all I can say about that is Genshin has literally the worst story of any video game to date. The lore writers are constantly stealing ideas from mythology and world history and copy and pasting it into Genshin. Paimon in the Ars Goetia is supposed to be some sort of demon, but look at Paimon in Genshin. This thing does not look like a demon at all. The lore writers can't even copy and paste things properly into Genshin's story at all. That's just how incompetent these devs are. Not to mention all the Archons in Genshin are also supposed to be named after demons, but none of them look particularly demonic. Also, all the Fatui Harbingers are supposed to be named after some Italian play or something. I mean, not even all the Fatui Harbingers in-game are Italian. And there's not even an Italian-themed nation in Genshin Impact, for crying out loud. It's just lazy writers, man. Genshin has the most lazy writing in gaming history, in fact. So let's look at an amazing example of writing from the same company, which really makes you wonder why Genshin got writing just so wrong. Honkai Star Rail and its recent main story, Penacony. Xiaoji is a masterful writer when he asks his audience 5 times in a row why birds fly. Because we really need to think about this topic outside of it being a simple metaphor, as well as other brilliant concepts like why do people sleep? So they can wake up. And only masterful writers like Xiaoji can truly engage an audience with these deep and thoughtful questions. I particularly enjoyed it when we had not one, but 2 fake-out end credit scenes, and then Black Swan proceeds to recap the story for us that we literally just did. Such an amazing twist ending is not so easily achieved and can be called nothing other than peak fiction. But enough about the story. Let's talk about the content creators and how Genshin Impact is torturing the lives of these overworked and honest people.
A real job can make you very tired, but a real job doesn't suck the soul out of you. You know what I mean?
Everyone knows the champion of gacha gaming, John Tectone, is doing great work in exposing just how sinister the Genshin Impact dev team truly is. He's exposing all the lies and conspiracies in the gacha sphere, such as these insane contracts that other industries stray far away from. And I'm not joking here. If you make an advertisement about Coca-Cola, you're able to talk about how it spikes blood sugar and prolonged consumption leads to pre-diabetic health factors. But we all know that gacha gaming contracts are different, specifically the one about Zenless Zone Zero, and how it's preventing fair and honest content creators to not shit talk the game and decide to just play Wuthering Waves all the time while still being on Hoyoverse's payroll. I actually think the Genshin dev team cooked up this abhorrent contract and handed it over to the Zenless Zone Zero department. And we all know that Tectone is being bombarded daily with constant drama that he does not want to involve himself in. Most or if not all of this drama is coming directly from the Genshin Impact community. They won't leave this honest creator alone. And can we talk briefly about the situation with Asmongold for a minute here? He, more than anyone else, has been tortured by his audience time and time again by them proclaiming that he's leading them on about one day actually playing Genshin, but never actually doing so. These Genshin players have nothing better to do than to just keep asking and wondering why Asmon is just never going to play the game that he said multiple times that he will. Seriously, these Genshin fans really need to step back and not expect content creators to stick to their word. They're extremely busy people reacting to other people's content and struggling financially paycheck to paycheck. At the end of the day, Genshin Impact is just a casual game with no actual content for people to play. It doesn't offer any competitive experience for anyone to truly enjoy. And competitive, difficult games should be the baseline standard for everyone who wants escapism entertainment. Playing video games casually and purely for your own personal enjoyment is really just a weak argument. Remember what Ninja said about not being a competitive gamer? It's just a weak mindset. And we really should take this idea to heart. Play every video game like you're competing with yourself and with everyone else, because anything less is just straight up weakness of character. Because we need to be mindful of the video games we play nowadays. Which games we play really says a lot about who we are as people and where we fit into our societal structure. It's important that we show others our skill at gaming, and Genshin just does not provide that. It's a casual game for literal babies. Children and babies are the ones spending multiple millions of dollars every month on Genshin. Tectone and Asmongold said that the majority of Genshin's player base are 12-year-old girls. So we know that these highly paid and financially well-off toddlers and 12-year-olds are constantly funding Genshin Impact. And for this reason, the game will never improve and will never get better. And look what's coming next, Natlan. They're going to rip off yet another beloved Nintendo franchise, and it's just sad to see. I can't even think of any other wildly popular game that came out recently that so blatantly tried to copy or take direct inspiration from Pokemon. Genshin devs are seriously shameless. Genshin Impact is truly the worst game ever created. Its continued existence causes nothing but grief, resentment, hatred, and financial ruin to innocent and unsuspecting people who unwillingly know what dangers lurk around the corner when they install the game onto their device. So, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. And remember, if you or someone you know is playing Genshin Impact or considering playing the game, please do the right thing and do what you can to convince them to stop playing and to seek professional help. Stay safe out there, guys, and take care.
It makes me so angry because I want Genshin to fucking die.
I sincerely believe Tectone does not hate Genshin. Because if you truly hated a game, you wouldn't play it, you wouldn't talk about it, you would move on.